My name is Audrey DeAngelis. I'm the public historian here at Oatlands. And one of the people I don't get to talk about quite as much as I would like is a man named Sandy Johnson. He was born in 1912 in Gleedsville, which is a small community near Oatlands. It was mostly established by freed people after emancipation. Sandy's grandfather, Alexander Johnson, who was called Sandy, he was actually enslaved here at Oatlands, as was his wife, Lethea Rust. Now, their grandson, our Sandy Johnson, in 1940, he was working as a farmhand for a man named Ben Bridges, whose family owned the Lanesville property, which is now part of Claudemoore Park, for anyone familiar with eastern Loudoun County. In 1942, though, Sandy joined the Army to serve in the war. According to his paperwork, he was unmarried and had left high school after about 1 year. He was assigned to Company C of the 22nd Quartermaster Truck Regiment. It's not uncommon for men of color in that part of history to be assigned auxiliary work rather than combat positions, and that's been true for longer than the United States has been a country. But this support work is no less necessary for military goals. He was promoted to corporal, and his unit was deployed to Italy. Now, not a lot of us know a whole lot about what was going on in Italy during World War II. I had to study up on it quite a bit. Basically, though, the Germans wanted to keep the fighting line as far from German territory as they could, so they set up a series of defensive lines along the Italian peninsula to delay the Allied advance. Now, this map came from Wikimedia, so apologies if it's not quite right, but it gives you an idea of what was happening, with the fighting line continually being pushed northward along the peninsula. In October of 1943, Corporal Johnson's unit was responsible for supporting the push through the Volturno line, that first line there to the southeast. By November, American forces had reached the next line, called the Barbara Line. Unfortunately, it was in that time frame that Sandy was wounded. According to the medical records, either from a shell or from an explosion, he received a simple fracture of the pelvis. Basically, he broke his pelvis, but the bone wasn't sticking out of his skin. Still, that's pretty gnarly. He went into shock either from the wound or the treatment, and unfortunately he died only a couple of days later on his 31st birthday, October 23rd, 1943. His unit later received a commendation for meritorious service in the Italian campaigns, and the unit exists today in a sense. It was inactivated in 1945, but reactivated in 1985, and is now the U.S. Army Garrison Italy, stationed in 2 communities in northern Italy. So there are still members of the military who trace their unit history to the 22nd Quartermaster Truck Regiment. As for Corporal Johnson, he was buried in Gleedsville, the same community he was born in. And born in Virginia in 1912, as a black man, he may not have felt all the same reasons to be proud of his country that some of his neighbors did, but he was still willing to serve that country and even put his life on the line in support of the American experiment. And that's worth remembering any month of the year.